Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Granville Guitars World Headquarters here in St. Petersburg, Florida. I'm Scooter. We're here today with our very good friend, Mr. Donnie O'Neal. The one, the only Donnie O'Neal.
Hello, hello. You know, this is fantastic. That music is fantastic.
Donnie, thank you so much for coming by.
You're very welcome, sir.
Donnie is a man of many talents, many considerable talents. Songwriter, performer, has a band Kingpin, performs a lot locally. I know I'm leaving a bunch of stuff out, but hopefully we're going to get to that over the course of these 20 questions with Scooter.
Gardener, baker, taxi driver.
Discuss your earliest musical memories.
Earlier on in my life, my dad was actually a huge influence on me. I grew up with music in the house, guitar, singing, kind of you name it, we had it going on. Family, pretty much all my uncles played guitar as well, sang and wrote songs. So that was probably from about 8 to about 10 or 11. That was really where I started kind of getting a foundation for music. So. That was a huge influence on me. You know, stuff like country music, from George Jones to Elvis Presley to you know, Tammy Wynette and Hank Williams. That's kind of what I came up with. That was probably the earliest onslaught. The old 8-tracks with you know, the side slot thing and you know, practicing songs with my dad.
Remember the 8-tracks?
They were a blast. I loved them.
Yeah. Who or what compelled you to pick up a guitar?
Again, my dad. My dad is actually a pretty decent guitar player. And I say that with love and humility before him. He started playing guitar around the house from the time I can remember. He would show me some chords, and I'd want to pick up stuff, and he'd kind of show me little things to pick up. I think Ghost Riders in the Sky was the first lick he showed me. And
me too.
It was absolutely the coolest thing ever. And so yeah, my dad gets the first credit, and it kind of sprawled from there, if you will. So yeah, my pop was a big influence on the music side.
Now, where did he grow up?
He grew up in Ohio, Ohio and Kentucky. Definitely more of the, his was more of the rural, you know, bluegrassy kind of vibe.
Sure.
Which I also dug and still do. But that was kind of his roots, you know.
Cool. Who was your main, and I always elaborate this question a little bit, who was and continues to be your main guitar influence?
I have a couple, actually. Probably James Burton. Which is kind of an odd.
His name came up yesterday.
Did it?
It did.
It's a lot of people usually won't pull that out of their hat, but because of the Elvis stuff, that was a big deal to me. I think one of the first guitars I saw was like one of his Paisley Tellys, the black Paisley, I think, and I remember thinking it was so cool. I thought he was such a neat guy. He was a big influence on me early on because that's what I had to listen to.
Right.
So James Burton. That guy from Bryan Adams, I still can't remember his name.
Oh.
Can't remember his name to save my life. But that guy is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
He was an early influence on me.
We saw Brian just last year, and
just amazing. Yeah, he was fantastic. As far as continuation of guitar influences, honestly, some guys. Of course, you know, people probably mention all the great guitar players. Mine kind of go back to some of the people maybe behind the scenes. Believe it or not, guys like Glenn Campbell. A lot of people maybe aren't aware of what a great player he was.
Oh, he got a start session.
Absolutely. Such a fantastic player. You know, guys like Brent Mason. You know, some of the Nashville kind of guys.
The guitarist for Bryan Adams, we were trying to remember, his name is Keith Scott.
Keith Scott, that is it.
What a fabulous player.
Monster player. Tasty.
Great, always great tone.
Absolutely.
He's a snappy dresser, too. He is.
Absolutely. And I remember seeing, you know, videos when I was a kid, you know, on MTV and stuff. He was just so tasty. I love the shred guys too from that era because that's an influence on me. But watching him play those tasty melodic licks really kind of lent to my idea or persona as a guitar player.
I always thought there was kind of a similar symmetry between Brian and Keith Scott and Tom Petty and Michael Campbell.
Absolutely, there's a pairing.
There's a pairing there where they're
Always.
very complementary. There's one guy that's singing, but he's also contributing guitar-wise. And
Mike Campbell, another guy.
yeah,
Big influence. The guy just is absolutely amazing guitarist.
Mm-hmm.
And guys, I mean, all the way down the pipeline. I was also influenced by guys like Vito Bratta from White Lion and Neil Sean and
Mm-hmm.
all those kinds of cats. Steve Lukather, another big favorite of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys all lent towards that 80s, late 80s, early 90s era
Right.
for me, where I was trying to identify as what kind of player I wanted to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Have you ever been influenced by non-guitar music or players?
Absolutely. A little known fact, a lot of people don't know this about me. I love Celtic music.
Uh-huh.
I'm a huge fan of Scottish and Celtic music. I guess that somber, kind of weepish, if you will, type music. I find solace in that. It actually lends to my songwriting. It's very relaxing to me. It gives me kind of a place I can kind of zone out. I listen to a lot of soundtrack stuff in my car when I'm driving. Soundtrack from the movie Braveheart was a huge influence on me as far as just, I'm amazed at orchestrational pieces. They don't get any cooler than that. I wish I could write like that or had the music background of that. That to me is absolutely amazing to put all those pieces together. It's just something else.
Well, I think there's a bridge that's not too difficult to imagine between your earliest influences of country music
Sure.
and the Celtic thing, because it's folk music.
Absolutely. It all lends itself. It's all very rural to its region.
Right.
And being Irish, I have an affinity for all things sad and potatoes.
They're good for you. Describe the local music scene where you came up, and to clarify, paint us a picture of where you were, who you were playing with, the places you were playing with, when you first started to perceive yourself as a musician.
That's easy. I actually grew up, I kind of grew up mostly in Tampa, in Hillsborough. Very first gig I ever did was a Say No to Drugs benefit concert at a place called Keystone Park. I worked there as a rec advisor when I was about 14, 15. And we had a band called Harkin, kind of a Christian rock band, if you will. And we were kind of a Skid Row meets Bryan Adams style band.
Okay.
We had a lot of influences, but that was kind of where we settled. But I grew up in that area. First bars I played were places that aren't around anymore, sadly, called the Volley Club, the Rocket Club, but it was in Tampa. That's kind of where I cut my teeth as far as learning how to play bars. And that was a very interesting time. It was late 80s. And so I caught the tail end of that whole scene in Tampa. So it was still very fashionable to have long hair and silk shirts and vests. So we wore a lot of eyeliner. It was fantastic.
Yes, unfortunately I did it, and the evidence is out there.
It always creeps up at the most inopportune moments.
Well, that's what you had to do.
It was. It was part of the scene then.
Yep.
And we loved it, and it was a different time back then, which you can attest to. And as far as Tampa was concerned, rock and metal was a big staple. Most of the bands you saw in town, majority of the bands were all very much into that style. So we were part of that clique at the tail end, and then came the '90s, which kind of veered us a little different direction.
We won't talk about the '90s.
Yeah, cut off flannels.
Yeah, we'll just.
Yeah, that was a bad time period for
We'll
me.
just set that over. Discuss some highlights of your playing career.
Wow, that would be in Nashville. Probably some of the more notable highlights. That said, let me backtrack. A very good friend of mine, Mr. Matt Laporte, who is no longer with us. I played with him for a number of years in town in a cover band, Kingpin, that I still do. Playing with him was probably one of the highlights of my life. Matt was not only a good friend of mine, Matt was also an amazing guitarist. And as far as my personal opinion and professional opinion, just you couldn't find a better guitar player for whatever it is you were doing. He had his own style, but he spoke music so fluently that you could just hum something to the guy, and he knew exactly what to play. He was a talent, and he's missed very much. That was a huge thing for me. I mean, that's highlights as far as those go. He was a highlight in my life. When I moved to Nashville in late 05, 06, lots of highlights there. Got to play with some great people, some great songwriters, some great players. Seeing guys like Brent Mason and Phil Kagi and John Willis and some of these guys were just absolutely amazing at how professional they were, but also being in the same room with them made you want to be better. Right. So those were highlights to me, and getting to see guys sit down and ask your opinion about things or songs you were writing together. That was a huge feather in my cap, if you will.
So, elaborate on the Nashville experience a little bit.
I can't say enough good stuff about Nashville. It's definitely one of those, the term heartbreak town, it is definitely that. If you go with the wrong ideas, in my opinion, I went knowing full well what was there. No surprises. Unless you have a road gig when you get there, you're going to have a day job. Kind of get yourself plugged in. It used to be one of those towns you could be there for 2 to 4 years and kind of get something going. If you're worth your weight at all musically in any facet, the town will absorb you. It'll take you in. Mm-hmm. It's a big mom that wants you to be there. Mm-hmm. That changed while we were there. It was more of a 3 to 7 year town, kind of sort of when we were there. And it took about 3 years for us to kind of get our feet planted and started writing for some publishing companies and got to do some very interesting stuff, some touring. Mm-hmm. The town itself is so it puts you in a trance as far as music goes. Mm-hmm. You want to write, you want to meet people, you want to network, and it's so easy to do there. The hard part about Nashville, in my opinion, are the preconceived notions. It's not just country. There's a whole underground scene of rock and blues and jazz, gospel.
Dave Mustaine lives there now.
Absolutely. Yeah. It really has become that LA of the East Coast type vibe with a lot nicer people. There's the industry side of it, which is like anything, good and bad. Sure. People talk a lot there. But I had a great experience there. We were very fortunate and blessed and got to do some really neat stuff. Mm-hmm. That was a big part of my life. I still love Nashville, and one day plan on hopefully getting back up there and kind of revisiting what I was involved with before.
Right. Cool. Are you proficient on any other instruments?
Proficient, that's a very interesting word. I will say no. I dabble in several things. I play a little piano, I play bass. I'm an aspiring drummer who is awful. I'm a horrible drummer, but I love it. I'm one of those people that, let me play your drum kit, and the drummers immediately go, oh sure, and when I'm done they go, okay.
Don't do that.
Yeah, it's just not so much.
I'm a big fan of drummers and drumming.
Sure.
There are no great groups without great drummers.
It's the backbone of the band, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If your drummer's not good, your band's not good. That's just my. Honestly, that's kind of where things lay for me.
I've always felt too, because I was a bass player for such a long period. I'm very strongly of the opinion that bass players, in particular, should have some knowledge of a drum kit.
Absolutely.
And the ability to work it at least a little bit.
Likewise, I believe drummers that sing are worth their weight in gold. It's one of those things to where playing drums is hard enough. You throw a singing drummer, guys like Phil Collins and any vast number of other drummers, that makes such a difference.
Well, I'm going to name drop a friend of mine, a guy named Steve Keeker,
Sure.
who sings like you do.
Oh.
He can sing Journey and play like Neil Peart and do it at the same time.
Absolutely amazing.
He's a freak and a wonderful guy.
Even better.
Yeah. Talk about, and I'm going to clarify this question a little bit. Talk about a turning point in your career, a place where there was before and there was after, clearly demarcated by some turning point.
Probably when I worked music retail, several music stores in town, selling instruments, stuff like that, for a long time, which was a great networking tool for me. Probably a turning point for me, I remember being at my job in the daytime, selling some strings to a friend of mine, plays in town, a local guy named Kyle Ashley, great guitar player, wonderful guy as well. He came in, buy some strings, and I was having a bad day at the store. Just one of those frustrating moments. I said, Kyle, I would love to play full time. I'd love to play guitar and sing full time. And just kind of feel like I don't know how to go about it. Kyle looked right at me and he smiled and he said, quit your day job. I said, do what? He said, quit your day job. I said, that's not responsible. He said, as long as you have a crutch to fall back onto, you will never do what you truly want to go do. That was a huge turning point for me. Within 2 weeks, I took that very to heart. Within 2 weeks, I gave my notice where I worked and left. And it was tricky, and there were some down weeks. I had met some neat people through there, so I had some gigs lined up. But that was kind of the turning point for me to veer more towards playing original music as well as cover music to try and get myself going. The cover thing lends to the writing aspect of the original stuff because it allows me the time of the day to sit down. We would write songs, rehearse, things like that. So that really kind of gave me a force to, and I did. I got out and made myself find work gigging, and that was it. That was 23 years ago. So, and I've pretty much been playing full-time since. I've had the odd day job here and there when I had to, buying a house, things like that. Had to be on paper. But other than that, it's pretty much been full-time music.
I need to get Kyle in this chair.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He's
another great guy.
Another customer.
Fantastic guy, too.
Great player.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tone for days.
Yeah. Discuss your current gig.
Current gig is Kingpin. We're a local cover band here in town. We do everything from Journey to AC/DC to Pat Benatar to Maroon 5 and Pink. I mean, we kind of cover all the genres as much as we can. It keeps us pretty busy. I also do solos and duos in town. That's the other part of my week for beach resorts and restaurants in town. Great gig, love it. Again, it affords me that time of the day to either work on original stuff and or come visit my buddy Scooter here at Granville.
Do an interview early in the morning. Where and how often do you perform?
I play almost every day. I'm usually at places in town like Jimmy B's, Shepherd's, Ricky T's, Downtown Disney. I do a lot of different places. I play daily, usually through the first part of the week I do solos. Last part of the week, usually Friday through Sunday, is more band stuff. But the band works about 3 to 4 times a week, and then solos are usually another 3 to 4 days a week. I like to work a lot. I have no common sense at all. I'll work doubles, triples. It's absolutely horrendous. I shouldn't do it, and I'm going to lay off eventually.
Right.
But it's one of these towns that you just can't. There's plenty of work to have. So knock on wood, it's there.
And your voice manages to hold up.
The majority of the time.
Because you sing in a for those of you in the audience who don't know Donnie and have never heard him sing, you sing in a very high tenor range.
I do.
Very impressive power And that's
I appreciate it. Thank you.
coming from a background where I was a singer
Sure.
and still am. That's impressive to me.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I knock on wood. That was one of those blessing type things, and singing high is fun. I occasionally wish I could sing a little lower. That would be great. I'd love to do some Barry White.
I bet you could if
It'd
you
be
tried.
fantastic. When I do it, it sounds like I'm talking through helium. It's just horrible.
Any non-musical ventures you'd like to discuss?
Wow. I try to think. I don't know that I have anything in my life not music related. The majority of my livelihood in life is based around that. Yeah, I can't think of anything I really do is not musical.
That's a happy thing.
Oh, it is. I say that with love.
Mm-hmm.
It has kind of enveloped my life, the majority of what I do. From getting up in the morning to the wife and I, if we go have dinner or make arrangements for something, sadly, and knock on wood, and thank God, she puts up with my schedule. Usually, our plans kind of dictate around what I have to do for a living.
I'm going to pull a fast one on you.
Sure.
Because you've already answered question 13, which is, do you work a regular job? We've covered that.
Sure.
Give us a Matt Laporte story. A variety of people who are yet to sit in this chair.
Sure.
Or are going to speak about Matt.
Sure.
Jason Jennings recently sat in that chair, and he spoke a lot about Matt.
Awesome.
Give us a Matt Laporte story that you can tell the world.
I think of one that won't offend people, as I laugh. Probably one of my favorite Matt Laporte stories. We were doing a gig one night at Gators, a bar here in town, years ago, and Matt has he had a very stylistic way of playing. Big vibrato, when he bent a string, and had such a musical sense about him that you really couldn't. It was hard to throw anything at him he couldn't figure out on the fly. We were doing a gig one night, and a customer at the bar asked Matt to play his guitar, and Matt said, "Can you play?" While he was playing, we were doing it in the middle of a song. "Can you play?" The guy said, Matt says, "Can you play?" The guy said, "Bro, I'm a great guitar player." And Matt says, "Okay." So Matt takes off his guitar and he hands the guy. And Matt would usually leave stage. Well, he didn't that time. He kind of hung out for a minute. And the guy got on stage, and clearly he couldn't play. And we were doing like a blues and E or something. It wasn't anything really hard. Mm-hmm. And the guy just kind of chumped it up. And Matt walked up while the guy was playing, and he picked the guitar up around the guy's neck, and the guy's still trying to play. Right. And he puts it back on. And Matt on the microphone says, "I guess the answer was no. You can't." And for Matt to be that glib and candid, usually Matt would just kind of shake his head and stick his lip out, like, no. But the guy was kind of offensive, so that was probably one of the cleaner, funny Matt Laporte stories I could tell you that won't offend anybody. I have a trove of them that would be inappropriate probably for some audience members. But Matt was just a guy that he made you smile when you walked into a room. He'd walk up to you and say something like, "Mama loves you, boy," and would put you in a great mood. Mm-hmm. Or he'd call you out of nowhere. And I think I went for a lesson one time with him years ago, and I sat down and nothing got done. I learned absolutely nothing because we were busy laughing the entire lesson. I think we were making fun of his shoes or something. The end of his Converse was flipping off, and if you knew Matt, he only wore Converse. The end was falling open like a flap, and we spent the entire hour just laughing about the shoe, making voices for it. It was hilarious. It was just weird.
Well, I'm sure there will be more Matt Laporte stories to come.
Absolutely.
At what point did you think you could make a living at music?
Again, I was probably about 20, 21, as I was kind of trying to get away from the music store retail thing. Again, my buddy Kyle, when he referred to quitting your day job, that first couple of months I wasn't sure if I could make a living. Things were slow. I lived with a couple of roommates, and making rent was kind of hard sometimes. Knock on wood, there were some agents in town that were really generous and gave me work. That work kind of got me into playing more frequently. Mm-hmm. Once that kind of started happening, places like Gators and Boomers, and when it was around, those places really kind of, you get into, there was a circuit back then, you kind of start rotating certain rooms, and that really kind of, at that point I realized, okay, I can do this. I have to kind of budget, plan what I'm going to spend each week, but I don't really drink, or I don't smoke. Kind of my recreation, if you will, is buying gear, or I'm a movie guy, so they kind of lent to getting myself into a schedule, and that showed me I could actually do it.
Tell us about your favorite guitar.
That's easy, and not because you're here, but my favorite guitar is actually I have a blue Telly named Christine. The Scooter actually built for me, and that guitar is my go-to. It's my, out of every guitar that I have, that guitar does everything I need to do. And it kind of morphed over time.
Yeah, it's been modded.
It started off as a Telly, and it's still a Telly, but now it's got a humbucker, and it's got some acoustic bridge, and it is, for me, for what I do, it's the one guitar, if I could only have one, that's the one I would keep.
I reshaped that neck at one point.
You did. It's fantastic. The unfinished neck part of it that you took the finish off for me, mm-hmm. That made such a difference for what I like, how I like to play, and everything from rock to blues to the acoustic thing. That's kind of my have at it guitar. Mm-hmm. It's only been a few years, but I mean, the paint's already wearing off, and it's got the funk on it, and it's got all the barisms to it.
Yeah.
That's my absolute favorite guitar.
It's a weapon.
It is.
Talk a little bit about your current rig, amplifier, strings, picks, tunings, that kind of stuff.
Rig-wise, I don't use it much out anymore, but I have a Blues Junior I've had for 18 years. You did some mods too as well, which were fantastic, by the way. That's really the only amp I have to date.
What are you using now in place of that?
I use a bunch of your pedals as one rig. I have a Granville copper drive, which I absolutely love. For what I do, that particular pedal does so much. As far as it's overdrive, but it's a push. It's not a distortion, if you will. But I also have a distortion pedal, the Spiny Norman, the yellow one, that you build also. That's my other. I kind of use those in tandem for like a lead boost type thing, or heavier stuff for certain songs. A dunk tank, which you also built me. My pedals, I can honestly say, consist of what you've built: dunk tank, a reverb, the copper drive, Spiny Norman, and then I have an AV switcher you also built for those. That's one rig of mine. And on the end of that, I use a Fender DI cab sim to go direct if I'm not using an amp. And then I have a Line 6 Firehawk pedal board, a multi-effects. Not a big fan of using multi-boards usually. This particular board has actually very user-friendly patches that sound good in my opinion for running direct. Our band, we all run in-ear, so that makes things a little easier. As far as volume. Strings, I like elixirs. I use 11s. We tune down right now to E flat, just because we play so much. I prefer being at pitch, singing and playing. But some of the stuff we do, 4 or 5 nights a week, it takes a toll because I sing every day. So that half step gives a big relief to what I do. Picks, I am a huge fan of the Altex. Those and the good old Dunlop Greenies, the .88s. Those are kind of the picks I prefer for different reasons. Especially if I'm doing an acoustic thing, I like the Altex a lot. I'll use like a 73 and it works great.
What one piece of gear is essential to your playing? The one thing that you will not perform without?
Probably the one thing as far as rig-wise, I positively absolutely have to have is my guitar, Christine. That guitar is with me at every gig. whether it's in the car, whether it's on stage, if I'm playing something different, doesn't really matter. Christine is within proximity for me to grab in case something happens. That's just my staple. It's my go-to. Whether it's an acoustic gig or whether it's an electric gig, that guitar is kind of, it's in my car.
I had no idea.
It's in my car 24/7. Yeah, I don't go to any gig without having that guitar available to me.
Oh, that's impressive.
True story. It's just that guitar. I kind of depend on that, and I've been just meandering, getting you to build me another one like it.
Right.
A little different finish maybe, but that guitar just does so much for what I do. And the other guitars I have are fantastic as well. I love the other stuff I have. That particular guitar just does it. I've had several people try to buy it from me, including my guitar player, Mike Burkett.
Yeah, I remember when you loaned it to him.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I almost didn't get it back. It was that bad.
Describe your proudest moment as a musician.
Proudest moment. In 2007, my writing partner and I, Jeff, while we were both living in Nashville, we had done a writer's round and met a very nice chick named Casey Bowles, great singer-songwriter in Nashville. Casey was actually not at all name drop, but I'm going to for this one reason. Casey had cut demos for people like Carrie Underwood, countless others, Tanya Tucker, Faith Hill. She cut tons and tons of vocal demos and was doing this neat writer's round with some friends of ours, Brett and Brad Warren, guys from town who have done very well in the writing industry. She was very approachable. We wanted to sing a few of our songs. We had some demo pitches coming up. So we went in the studio, had her cut a couple tracks for us, and she referred us to what later became the publishing company we wrote for. She referred us to her lady, a lady named Celia Froelig, and we contacted Celia and pitched some songs. Celia had said, I'd love to kind of see what you guys do. So Jeff and I set an appointment up to talk with her. So we drove down to the publishing company and went in. What she didn't know is we took our guitars via Nashville style in the old days, and we walked in and decided to play for her in her office. She wanted to hear songs. We decided we were going to show her what we do. Jeff and I kind of feel we present our songs better than most people else could. So we opened our guitars, and she smiled, a huge smile ear to ear. And she said, "You guys are going to do it the right way, aren't you?" And that, for me, was a huge proud moment. To walk into an office cold and open your guitars at a publishing company in Nashville, for me, was a huge pivotal moment for us to be able to say, we're not afraid of the town at all. At the same time, we want you to let us know what you think. We want to learn. We're not so arrogant that we don't think we can learn at all.
Right.
She was more than kind and gave us homework. That was the beginning of our writing career, if you will. We played 3 songs, and she had people from her other offices come in that she wanted to see us and hear us. And it made us feel like we were there doing what we went to do. That was probably my proudest moment out of anything I've ever done. And we get to write with some really neat people as well. At the same time, that was a crux for us.
Yeah.
So.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, it was nerve-wracking to a point, but you hear stories from the old days, Nashville guys, walk into a studio and open a guitar and you play your best song type thing. People don't do that anymore up there. It's gotten so social mediaized, if you will, with Facebook and YouTube and stuff, that people really don't. They've lost, in my opinion, people have lost that originality to be able to say, hey, I play, I sing, I write. And there's a million guys in Nashville that do that. And that's what I love about the town. Getting meetings to go do that are very difficult now because the scene's changed so much. So that was kind of our reasoning for, let's set a meeting up and just surprise her. And by doing so, that led us down a different path, which was awesome. So.
What has happened in the 10 years since with your songwriting?
Sadly, we never had any huge hits.
Mm-hmm.
We did a bunch of writing for a bunch of people. We wrote for some theme songs for NASCAR and some commercials and
Mm-hmm.
jingles and TV show stuff for cable companies like HBO and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Did some songs for Kelly Pickler and a couple other artists that.
That's
Nothing huge. Nothing got cut that was huge, but the stuff that we did get to do kept us working full time.
Mm-hmm.
We had an office down there, and it was surreal to be able to get up in the morning and say from 9 to 5 I'm going to go write music. And whether you're doing a project or writing for a jingle, it's all paycheck. The company we wrote for changed hands, and a bunch of us kind of got let go in regards to they brought in a new batch of writers that basically they don't have to pay right now until they have cuts. That's kind of the direction the industry has went with that, which is kind of difficult. But as that was kind of folding up after about 8 years, my wife, who love you, honey, put up with us being there, and she loved living there as well. Her mom wasn't doing good health wise, so we wound up coming back down here as the scene was changing. I'll move back tomorrow personally and just live there and work at Home Depot if I have to. But
Yeah.
it's that kind of town. I love that town.
It's a beautiful town.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the people are just so genuinely nice there.
Yeah.
So.
I'm going to throw another curveball at you because I'm interested.
Sure.
Any plans to possibly, you have all these songs you've written.
Sure.
Any plans to do a record yourselves?
We actually have talked about that the last few months. We've got a big batch of songs. We could probably do 8 or 10 tunes just for ourselves here.
Sure.
We're probably the crux of doing that right now.
Sure.
We just have to kind of notch out time to do it between gigs.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of the songs are already ready to do. We just have to put time into doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing is, if we do it, I don't know that I'll record it here. A guy we work with in Nashville, John Willis, he's a session guy at Sony. Beautiful studio, and he speaks that style. Mm-hmm. He speaks Nashville as far as the recording goes. He's extremely cost effective and a great producer as well as guitar player. So it's something we may actually go up and do tracks with him, or have him cut certain tracks and then finish it up down here, kind of just depending on how we want to handle it. So
I'll look
forward. Pause real quick.
If given the chance, what non-musical profession would you be interested in?
You're gonna laugh. I have had an affinity for meteorology.
Oh, there's nothing laughable
forever.
Uh-huh.
I am totally enthused and entranced with the idea of how our weather works.
Uh-huh.
I always have been. Hurricanes when I was a kid was a big thing. Growing up in Florida was a huge thing. How they developed, how the clouds worked, how the water worked with it. Just watching, I remember watching storms come up on the water as a kid, and was always amazed by it. If I didn't go the music direction, I probably would have very, very strongly leaned towards meteorology.
Well, the camera loves you.
Oh, well, good. Zang.
That's cool.
Yep, that would probably be that. I also, on a side note, I have an affinity for. I absolutely love working with special needs kids. When I was in Nashville, I had the great fortune of working with a very special little girl named Ellie. She was part of our life for about 8 years. Ellie was a huge love of my life. I found in her living with us, I found how much I enjoyed working with special needs types kids. Mm-hmm. She had lots of special conditions, but she was so lovable and adorable. Mm-hmm. It was one of those things you saw genuineness of giving. And I'm far, far, far from a saint, but it made you feel like you were giving something back to somebody that really appreciated it. That's also a passion of mine, whether it be working with foster homes or special needs kids in a group setting. that's something I kind of had a knack for as well while I was there.
Mm-hmm.
I very much enjoyed doing that. That's maybe another direction I would have looked into, doing something with that as well. So on a social service type level, maybe. So
Neat.
very, very interesting stuff.
Question 20.
Yes, sir.
We're boiling it down to the very end here. What artist who was legendary and important and everybody loves do you just not get?
Wow, the different spin on that question. I like
Yeah,
it.
now let me clarify
Sure.
slightly. It's not, you don't hate this artist.
No.
You recognize that that everyone loves them.
Absolutely.
But you just sit there slack-jawed and go, I don't get it.
Wow, there's so many for me on that level. I can't even tell you. This is going to sound weird, especially coming from the songwriter aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm probably going to be firebombed for saying this. Bob Dylan. Absolutely love, let me clarify, love his songwriting.
Mm-hmm.
He has written epic monster pieces that are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I would kill to have the career that guy's had writing-wise.
Yeah.
I don't get him at all.
Yeah.
I know he's introvert and kind of different and all that. I never understood him. I don't get anything about him. Aside from his songwriting, I have no concept how he functions day to day. I don't know. People either go full tilt. Oh my God, Bob Dylan. Who you don't like Bob Dylan? I like Bob Dylan's songwriting. That's his talent, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get him. If I say Elvis, hypothetically, as a songwriter, good songwriter,
Mm-hmm.
he wrote some of his own stuff. It was great. As an artist, I get him. As a person, while flawed like we all are, I get him. Look at Bob Dylan, I go, how do you tie your shoes? Personally, how do you tie your shoes in the morning? And I don't.
Maybe he doesn't.
I don't dislike the guy at all. I just don't get him. However, I play a ton of his songs, and if I could write half as much of cool stuff as that guy has written, we'd be a little different space than we are now.
Well, they just gave him a Nobel Prize.
Absolutely, that he didn't respond to.
I think his strength is probably, obviously, his lyrics.
He tells stories, which I'm a huge fan of. Not the sidebar too much, but I have an affinity for any storytellers.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's guys like Bob Dylan or Steve Earle, or believe it or not, groups like NWA, Ice Cube, Dr. Dre. These guys, I'm not a huge hip hop fan necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
There's hip hop I do like. If you listen to a lot of that earlier stuff, when reality rap, hood rap, whatever you want to call it, came out, they told stories from their perspective. Very much so the same way with country music. You got a beer, you lost your dog and your wife.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all things that people deal with on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
These are realities. Where Bob Dylan, I feel, excels. He paints graphic photos with his lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
Monumental. So that's why I have such an affinity for any storytellers, which goes to the songwriting thing, like with Jeff and I. We do this. Our music always tells stories, but then we also have the music that, if you will, the industry wants to hear, which is the feel good, be happy, cookie cutter type stuff.
Right.
I'm not one of these purists that thinks you have to have every single song be a masterpiece. I don't believe that.
Right.
I believe there's a place and time to write songs that are, to quote a guy I love, Butch Walker, one of my favorite songwriters of all time, and as an artist, difference between a great song and a hit song. A hit song isn't necessarily going to be a radio song,
Right.
or a great song. A great song is more likely going to be something that nobody ever listens to, or just your fans like. The hit song being, for the masses. That's where I really feel guys like Bob Dylan kind of crossed that boundary. They made great songs, hit songs. That's a talent in itself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Bob, good old Bob. He's my I don't know. So there's a bunch of others, Boy George. I'm joking.
Yeah.
Just people I don't totally get sometimes.
Yeah.
But Butch Walker being a huge influence on me within the last 10, 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
Butch coming from that rock background, late 80s, 90s, writing songs, tons of songs for other artists. Pink, Outkast, Avril Lavigne, Fall Out Boy. I mean, you name it, the guy's written songs for everyone. You couldn't go into a store right now or anywhere and buy a CD of his unless you look for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yet the guy's on tons and tons of records as a songwriter and producer.
Right.
I think our industry's backwards in that facet. Not to get on a soapbox, but I get very frustrated at the masses are asses type mentality, which is mass consumption. I'm not a purist at all, but at the same time, it's sad when you can play a staple cover song, say like a Sublime type song, locally. People go crazy. That's what they want to hear because that's the market you're in. Play an original tune that tells a story, that's amazingly played with great players, and you're hard pressed to get an applause.
Right.
It's just a backwards. It's always been that way. It's nothing new. That's when I get a little soapbox issues, if you will, when it comes to people not really. The original thing, especially on a local level, has fallen by the wayside a ton, in my opinion. It makes me sad. At the same time, everything comes back in cycles. So I'm very hopeful that as time goes on, the songwriter, if you will, kind of gets back to a focal point of the writing, or of the attention, if you will. Guys like Garth Brooks always put songwriters equal to or above the artist, and I tip my hat to Garth for that. Great artist in his own right. It's what he does. Great songwriter. But man, that guy, when he was writing in Nashville, there was nothing bad to say from the people I met in Nashville about him. He always made the songwriter as important as the song. I thought that was very commendable. Back to the Bob Dylan thing, that's kind of where I think Bob has had such a timeless career. Mm-hmm. That, I put his songs very high on the level of amazing. Mm-hmm. Him as a person, I don't know him well enough to know what his issues or isms are. Every time I see an interview with the guy, or he always just seems kind of like he's a little bit of a hodgepodge, like kind of a mess, and that may be the part of his creativity. It's a lot of the old artists, the painters and stuff, they're not really respected until they die.
Right.
I'm glad that he at least gets the honor and respect of what he does.
It's sort of like the old quote, and I can't remember who to attribute it to. There is no genius without some small measure of madness. And some geniuses just acquire a little more madness than others.
Great quote, and true. Look, guys like Frank Zappa.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not like the world's biggest Frank Zappa fan. I totally like a bunch of his stuff and appreciate what he did. But definitely one of those geniuses, it's insane.
Well, the industry needs guideposts of that sort, like Frank Zappa.
Totally.
King Crimson is another one.
Absolutely.
That you need to know, that the mainstream artists need to know where their boundaries are.
Absolutely.
If you stray into King Crimson territory, it's probably not going to get played anywhere.
Absolutely. It's funny you say that, because I think I read an article a while back when Queen was recording Bohemian Rhapsody. Mm-hmm. Side note, I think Queen is one of the best rock bands of all time. Thank you. When they were recording Bohemian Rhapsody, they were label execs and reps that were trying to stifle the entire thing.
Oh, yeah.
They wanted no part of it. They were like, this is insane. You can't have a 7 or 8 minute song?
It's over 7 minutes.
It's something insane. They were trying to stop it. And Queen's like, we're not doing this for you. We're doing this for us. Mm-hmm. If you want to put it out, do. And if you don't, don't.
Yeah.
They wrote a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
On what, 8 tracks?
It was 16.
16, okay.
It was a 16.
So it just even 16, amazing at what they accomplished.
And it was literally being mixed up to, the 11th hour
Sure.
before it had to be finished. I mean,
Even more mesmerizing. But the vocal parts, the arrangements, this was a piece of music. This was a body of music, in my opinion. It wasn't a song for mass consumption. It became that.
I think that piece of music is the clearest picture that an artist has ever given of himself. I think Freddie literally slit himself open from the top of his head to the tips of his toes and let us all look inside, and that's what
I believe so.
came out. I mean, I think that was the clearest picture of Freddie Mercury
And
there.
and this was a band, excuse me, that, Another One Bites the Dust, a mass consumption type song, if you will. Rock, groove, memorable lyrics, anthemish. That's
Written by John Deacon.
Absolutely, correct. I look at that kind of stuff and I go, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But then you listen to their and I Want It All, another one of my favorites of theirs. You listen to their songs, you listen to movements like that, and you go, that's not being done nowadays. Nothing against artists like the pop icons right now. There are guys like Justin Timberlake who are absolutely amazing, great songwriter, dancer, singer, actor. Has he written or been part of a song that is going to be epically remembered in 25 years? I don't know.
Either.
I know guys like, bands like Queen, or bands like, whether it's Rush or Van Halen or, King Crimson, these types of guys, or, solo artists or country people, the Alan Jacksons, the Garth Brooks, these types of people, they've written songs that, Friends in Low Places. These are songs that you go to any bar, go to any restaurant, and you're going to hear them on a jukebox. You're going to hear someone. The minute you start playing it, they're going to know it.
Right.
To me, that's a testament of not just that the industry has crammed it down your throat, because there's a part of that, but it's that the song is a good song. If it's a great song, it's going to stand the test of time, no matter who hears it.
Exactly.
And that is where my passion lies. My passion lies as a guitar player. I enjoy playing things, that move me. I'm by no means a great guitar player by any stretch. I play to what I do. My playing suits how I sing, what songs I'm playing. To where there are great guitar players in town, guys like Jerry Outlaw, guys like Justin Walker, guys like Leo Magnelli. There's some great guitar players in town. And there's a ton more. I just don't know.
Cannon McDonald.
Cannon McDonald. I love Cannon to death. Technique, knowledge for days. And as a songwriter, I depend on guys like that to help form sometimes what it is I'm writing. Mine starts off with, a first position G, C, D, A minor, or B sometimes. That's almost how they always start. Those guys sometimes take it to where I want to take it, but I can't hear it. That's why, as a guitar player, I'm very appreciative of other guitarists. I'm not one of these people that thinks, well, this one guy is the end-all, be-all of guitar players. Each person is their own, person. Guys like Jerry Outlaw, if you ever saw him with Bogus Pomp, that's something to see, because the orchestration and time that goes into reproducing that style of music from Zappa, that takes a passion and a love. Guys like Jerry Outlaw, you watch him play guitar, and this isn't blowing smoke up Jerry's, but you watch Jerry play, you know a grown man's playing guitar.
His playing is immaculate.
He's an epic guitar player. He's also a very nice guy on top of it. He's a sweetheart, and I have nothing but good things to say about guys like Jerry. Justin Walker, one of the finest guitar players I've met under the age of 30 and forever. The guy is, he to me is, when I talk with Matt Laporte, Justin is very much that genre of player. He hears music in a way that I can't. If I hum something at him, or if I say, hey, I'm hearing this, and I sing a line to him, I've actually watched Justin play it or pick it out. Or he'll listen to a song once on a cover song, and next thing I know, 2 minutes later, he's playing it like he wrote it. That's the kind of musicality as a guitarist I adore. I don't have that particular skill set. My skill set as a guitarist is to look at guys like that and go, hey, I got this, this, and this. I want to do this, this, and this. What do you think? And then they take it to the next step. That's where I really think songwriters and guitarists or instrumentalists who are great at what they do and they speak that, that's where we're a pairing. What good is it? What good is a guitar player if he can't translate what he's trying to say? I can translate the chords and the song and the words. Sometimes I need that extra step to make it more musical, and that's where guys like that come into play. Also, guys like Steve Petrie, another great guitar player in town. There's so many, and a lot of these younger guys that play in town, some of the cover band stuff. They don't know who any of these guys are, and it's a shame. I would hope that anybody that sees this, go out and look up some of these names you've heard on this blog and other blogs that Scooter's doing. There's so much raw talent here in town that it's mind blowing.
And a number of them are going to be sitting in that chair soon.
Absolutely. And thank you, Scooter, for doing this. This kind of stuff, I think, really kind of it puts a different spin on the local scene as far as who's available, who's around, and I know you don't want anybody doing this, but I also want to give you props for your Granville stuff. that you help take care of all of our guitar needs, and man, that's a huge appreciation.
Well, someone has to do it.
You make it easy. You make it easy, my friend, and I thank you. I thank you a ton for doing that.
Well, thank you very much.
So.
And thank you for coming down today.
Absolutely.
Coming in early and.
Orange juice, baby.
Yeah, woohoo!
That and coffee.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. This is Scooter from Granville Guitars here in St. Petersburg, Florida. If you have any questions or inquiries about what we do here at Granville Guitars, seek us out on the web at www.granvilleguitars.com. Check out our new blog, A View from the Granville Bench, or go find us on Facebook. That's all we got time for today. Thanks once again to our good friend, Mr. Donnie O'Neal.
Thank you. Thanks, Scoot.
Have a good day.